The courthouse steps felt cold under my bare legs that morning. I'd chosen a simple cream dress, nothing fancy, just elegant enough for what should have been the happiest day of my life. My fiancé Dorian squeezed my hand as we waited, checking his watch every few minutes. I kept staring at the entrance, hoping they'd show up despite everything. They never did. My name is Melanie, and that was the day I learned what family really meant, or in my case, what it didn't mean. "They're not coming, are they?" Dorian whispered, his voice gentle but firm. I shook my head, fighting back tears that threatened to ruin my drugstore mascara. "The judge is ready for you," the clerk called out, and we walked in together, our witnesses, my best friend Sabrina and Dorian's brother, trailing behind us. Just 2 months earlier, my brother Caden had gotten married in a $300,000 ceremony at the plaza. Mother wore Valentino and cried perfect tears while Dad gave a speech about legacy and pride. I'd stood in the back, wearing the bridesmaid dress they'd chosen, watching them beam at their golden child. The contrast couldn't have been starker. My wedding took exactly 12 minutes. The judge was kind, at least. She smiled warmly when we exchanged our simple gold bands, all we could afford on our combined entry-level salaries. That night, in our tiny one-bedroom apartment, I checked my phone one last time. 3 messages, all from Mum. "This is embarrassing, Melanie. A courthouse wedding. What will people think? Your father is devastated. We raised you better than this. Caden says you're making a huge mistake. That boy will never amount to anything." Dorian found me crying in our kitchen, surrounded by takeout containers from the Chinese place downstairs, our wedding feast. He didn't say anything, just sat beside me and opened his laptop. "Remember that app idea we talked about?" he said finally. "The one for streamlining supply chain management?" I wiped my eyes. "The one nobody wants to fund." "Screw funding," he started typing. "We have our brains. We have our savings. Let's build something they can't ignore." That night, we worked until dawn, sketching out flowcharts on paper napkins. Every rejection, every snide comment, every disappointed look, we transformed them into code, into business plans, into determination. We lived on ramen and coffee for 2 years. Dorian took freelance coding jobs while I refined our prototype. When Google offered to double my salary to stay in my safe programming job, I turned them down. We had bigger dreams. The first investor meeting was terrifying. 5 men in suits, looking skeptically at our presentation. But our demo worked perfectly, and by the end, they were fighting to write us checks. That was 10 years ago. Now I'm sitting in my glass-walled office, overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. Our company, Henry Tech, is valued at just over $3 billion. Dorian runs operations while I handle strategy and development. We have over 500 employees. My assistant Sabrina, yes, the same one who witnessed our wedding, knocks on my door. Her face is unusually serious. "Mel, security just called. There are people at the gate." I turn to my monitors, clicking through the security feeds. The camera shows 2 figures I haven't seen in person for nearly a decade. They look smaller somehow, diminished. My mother's designer clothes are wrinkled, my father's normally perfect hair unkempt. "They're saying they're your parents," Sabrina continues, her voice tight with protective anger. "Should I have security remove them?" I zoom in on the feed. Mum is crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Dad keeps looking over his shoulder like he's being hunted. They look desperate, broken. My finger hovers over the intercom button. Part of me wants to leave them standing there and let them feel a fraction of what I felt on those courthouse steps. But that would be too easy, too quick. "Let them in," I say finally, my voice steady. "Have Thomas escort them to the main house. Tell them I'll be there shortly." Sabrina raises an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" I stand up, smoothing down my Armani suit, the kind of outfit my mother always dreamed of wearing. "Absolutely. It's time for a family reunion." My phone buzzes, a text from Dorian. I saw who's here. "Want me to come home?" I type back. "No, stay at the office. I've been preparing for this day for 10 years. Looking out over the city, I allow myself a small smile. They thought a courthouse wedding was beneath them? Wait until they see what their embarrassment of a daughter has planned for them. "Sabrina," I call out, "have the guest house prepared. I think my parents might be staying a while." The security feed didn't do justice to how badly they'd aged. As I walked down the marble staircase of my home, I barely recognised the two people standing in my foyer. Mum's carefully maintained blonde highlights had given way to grey roots, and Dad's proud posture had collapsed into a permanent stoop. "Melanie," Mum whispered, taking a step forward, "you look successful." I kept my distance, gesturing to the living room. "Please sit. Would you like something to drink? Water? Wine? We have a lovely Bordeaux that costs about what you spent on Caden's wedding cake." They shuffled to the cream-coloured sofa, perching awkwardly like birds ready to flee. Dad cleared his throat. "Water would be fine." "Sabrina," I called out. She appeared instantly, tablet in hand. "Water for my guests, and the Bordeaux for me." "Right away," she said, shooting my parents a look that could freeze hell. "Your house is beautiful," Mum ventured, her eyes darting around the room. "We had no idea you'd done so well for yourself. You would have if you'd bothered to read any business magazines in the last 5 years." I settled into my favourite armchair, crossing my legs. "Or opened any of the Christmas cards we sent, or attended any of the industry events where I gave keynote speeches." Dad's face reddened. "We've made mistakes, sweetheart." "Don't!" My voice cut through the air like a blade. "You lost the right to call me that when you told the country club I was finding myself, instead of admitting I was building a tech company." Sabrina returned with the drinks. I took a slow sip of wine, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. "We need help," Mum finally blurted out. "Everything's gone. The house, the cars, our savings." "Let me guess," I interrupted. "Caden's investment scheme finally collapsed." Their shocked faces confirmed it. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through news alerts I'd been collecting. "Rising Star Falls, Weaver Capital under federal investigation," I read aloud. "Investors lose millions in suspected pyramid scheme." My favourite is this one. "Golden Boy's empire built on sand." "How did you know?" Dad asked. I smiled. "I've had a private investigator tracking Caden's business dealings for years. The moment he started moving money through shell companies in the Caymans, I knew it was just a matter of time." "You've been spying on your own brother?" Mum's voice rose with indignation. "No, I've been protecting myself from my own brother," I corrected her. "The same brother who told potential investors not to waste their money on my cute little startup 5 years ago. A memory surfaced, their voices carrying through the country club's dining room 3 years ago. Caden's going to revolutionise Wall Street. Oh, Melanie, she's just playing with computers. Like a hobby, really." "We have nowhere else to go," Dad admitted, his voice breaking. "Your brother. He convinced us to invest everything, our retirement, our equity." "And now you're here," I finished, hoping your embarrassment of a daughter might help. Mum started crying, perfectly timed tears just like at Caden's wedding. "We're family, Melanie, despite everything." "Family?" I stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Funny how that word only matters when you need something from me." "Please," Dad begged. "Just until we can get back on our feet. We can stay anywhere, a spare room, even a garage." I turned back to them, my expression carefully neutral. "Actually, I do have a proposition for you. Not exactly cash, but an arrangement." Hope flickered across their faces. Poor desperate fools. "We have a guest house," I continued. "It's comfortable. Nothing like your old mansion, but it has the basics. You can stay there up for 6 months." "Oh, thank God," Mom breathed. "But there are conditions." I sat back down, leaning forward. Non-negotiable ones. "Anything," Dad promised quickly. I caught Sabrina's eye, and she began typing on her tablet. "First, you'll earn your keep. There are daily chores, maintenance tasks. You'll work for your room and board." Mum's mouth fell open, but I continued before she could object. "Second, no contact with Caden at all. If I find out you've spoken to him, you're out immediately." "But he's your brother," Mum started. "Third," I spoke over her, "we'll have weekly family dinners here in the main house. And during these dinners, you'll listen, really listen, to everything you've missed in the last 10 years. Dad's face had gone pale. "What do you mean, listen?" I smiled, the same cold smile I'd perfected in countless boardroom negotiations. "Oh, I have so many stories to tell. Starting with a courthouse wedding you couldn't be bothered to attend." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Mum nodded, defeated. "We'll do it." "Excellent." I stood up. Sabrina will show you to the guest house. Your first dinner is tomorrow night at 7. Don't be late." As they followed Sabrina out, I heard Mom whisper to Dad, "What choice do we have?" "None," I thought, watching them shuffle across my manicured lawn. That's exactly the point. At precisely 7 o'clock, my parents stood awkwardly in my dining room, wearing the clothes they'd arrived in yesterday. Mum kept fidgeting with her wrinkled silk blouse, while Dad stared at the elaborate place settings. "You'll be serving tonight," I announced, settling into my chair at the head of the table. "The kitchen staff has prepared everything. You just need to bring it out." "Serving?" Mum's voice cracked. "Like waiters?" "Exactly like waiters," I smiled. "The dishes are labelled. First course is the soup." They exchanged glances before Dad shuffled toward the kitchen. I heard a muffled argument. Then they emerged carrying bowls of butternut squash soup. Their hands shook as they set them down. "Do you remember my graduation dinner?" I asked, stirring my soup. "The one you skipped because Caden had a networking event?" Mum nearly dropped the bread basket. "Melanie, that was... I just finished top of my class in computer science. Full honours. 3 job offers already lined up." I took a sip. "The soup's getting cold. You should sit." They sank into their chairs, looking lost without their usual airs of superiority. "I went to that dinner alone," I continued. "Sat at Olive Garden by myself, wearing my graduation robe, while other families celebrated around me. The waitress felt so bad, she gave me free dessert." "We sent the card," Dad muttered, "with a $50 check, the same week you bought Caden a BMW for landing his first internship." I set down my spoon. "Main course now, please. The salmon." As they served the fish, I pulled out my phone, showing them a news alert. "Look what just hit the wire. Federal investigators expand probe into Weaver Capital fraud. Caden's really outdone himself this time." "He made some mistakes," Mum defended weakly. "But he never meant to..." "To what? Steal millions? Destroy people's life savings? Your retirement?" I cut into my salmon. "Tell me, did he mean to convince you to remortgage your house to invest in his guaranteed returns scheme?" Dad's face crumpled. "We trusted him." "Like you trusted that I was making a mistake marrying Dorian?" I reached for my wine. "How's that judgment working out for you?" A notification pinged on my phone. Security alert. I pulled up the camera feed to see a familiar figure lurking near the back gate. "Speaking of poor decisions," I murmured, "your golden boy is trespassing on my property right now." Their heads snapped up. "Caden's here!" "Don't worry, security will handle it." I typed a quick message to my head of security. "Though I'm curious, did you tell him where you were staying?" He called earlier," Mum admitted. "We just said we were safe, that's all." "Strike one," I said coldly. "Remember our agreement? No contact with Caden." "He's desperate," Mom burst out. "The FBI froze his accounts, his wife left him, he's sleeping in his car." "Sounds like a him problem." I stood up. "Since you've already broken one rule, let's accelerate tonight's story. Remember when Google offered to double my salary if I stayed instead of starting my company?" They shook their heads. "Of course you don't. Because when I called to tell you, you were too busy planning Caden's 31st birthday gala." I walked to the window, watching security escort my brother off the property. I turned down $300,000 a year because I believed in my vision. Dorian and I lived on ramen and worked 18-hour days. We built something real. "We see that now," Dad said quietly. "You've done amazingly well." "No," I turned back to them. "You don't get to be proud of me now. You don't get to claim any part of this success. You know what Caden told investors about my company? Called it a cute hobby project. Run by his little sister who plays with computers." Mum's face whitened. "He wouldn't..." "I have the recordings," I cut in. "Would you like to hear them? Along with the ones of you bragging about his fake success while dismissing my actual achievements?" Silence fell heavy across the dining room. Finally, Dad spoke. "What do you want from us, Melanie?" "Want?" I laughed. "I don't want anything from you. I want you to understand what it feels like to be powerless, to depend on someone else's mercy, to serve instead of being served." I pressed another button on my phone, and Sabrina entered with a stack of papers. "These are your new schedules. Tomorrow you'll start with the gardens, weeding, pruning, the works. After that there's windows to clean, floors to mop." I smiled. "Consider it rent." "We're not gardeners," Mum protested weakly. "And I wasn't supposed to be a tech mogul," I replied. Funny how life works out. Now, dessert is in the kitchen. Something simple, humble pie. They stood, defeated, and headed for the kitchen. Behind them, through the window, I watched Caden's car slowly pull away from the curb. Don't worry, dear brother, I thought. Your turn is coming. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation as I stepped onto the stage. 3,000 people waited to hear the Silicon Queen, their words not mine, speak about disrupting traditional supply chain management. In the front row, I spotted my parents wearing the staff badges I'd arranged for them. Part of their duties this week was attending my keynote. 10 years ago, I began, I was told my ideas were too ambitious, that I should stick to a safe corporate job, play it small. My eyes locked with Mom's. Today, Henry Tech processes over $40 billion in transactions annually. Sometimes the smallest beginnings lead to the biggest revolutions. The audience erupted in applause. I saw Dad shift uncomfortably in his seat as his phone buzzed. His face went pale as he read whatever message had come through. After the speech, Sabrina intercepted me backstage. "It's done," she whispered. "The documents just went live." I nodded, checking my watch. 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, my mother burst into the green room waving her phone. "Have you seen this? Someone leaked all of Caden's private banking records to the press." "Really?" I accepted a bottle of water from Sabrina. "How unfortunate." "It shows everything," Mum's voice hitched. "The shell companies, the fake investments, oh God, the Ponzi scheme. It's all there." Karma's a fascinating thing, isn't it? I took a slow sip. Almost as fascinating as the fact that you're breaking our no contact rule again by reading about Caden. "This will destroy him completely," Dad said from the doorway, his face ashen. "The FBI will have everything they need to prosecute." I shrugged, gathering my presentation materials. "Sounds like justice to me." "Justice?" Mum's voice rose. "He's your brother." "Was my brother," I corrected her. "The same brother who sabotaged my first round of funding by spreading rumours about my company's stability. The brother you always said had real ambition while I was just playing entrepreneur." A commotion outside drew our attention. Through the door, I could see reporters gathering, cameras flashing. "Miss Henry," they called out, "any comment on your brother's fraud scandal?" I smiled at my parents. "Excuse me, I have a press conference to attend." Stepping out, I faced the media with practiced poise. "Yes, I'm aware of the allegations against my brother. It's a tragic situation that highlights the importance of ethical business practices, something we've always prioritised at Henry Tech." "Did you know about his fraudulent activities?" someone shouted. "My brother and I haven't been in contact for years," I replied smoothly, "but I'm not surprised. Success built on deception never lasts." Back in my office later that day, Sabrina brought in the afternoon papers. My speech made the business section, but Caden's scandal dominated the front page. "Your parents are in the garden," she reported. "Your mother's crying while pulling weeds." "Good." I scanned the headlines. "Any word from our friend at the FBI?" "They're moving to freeze all remaining assets," Sabrina confirmed, "including the offshore accounts we anonymously identified." My phone buzzed. A text from Dorian. "Just saw the news. You okay?" Before I could reply, Mum burst into my office, mascara streaming down her face. "It was you, wasn't it? You leaked those documents." I looked up calmly. "You should knock before entering my office. And you should be finishing the rose bushes." "Answer me," she demanded. "Did you orchestrate this whole thing? Did you orchestrate having my wedding announcement removed from the society pages?" I countered. "Did you orchestrate telling your friends I was finding myself when I was actually building a billion-dollar company? That was different." "You're right," I cut her off. "It was different. Because I'm not hiding truth, I'm exposing it. Every document leaked was real. Every transaction authentic. I just accelerated the inevitable." Dad appeared in the doorway, looking broken. "The FBI just called. They want to interview us about our investments with Caden." "How convenient," I mused. "You can tell them all about how your perfect son convinced you to invest your retirement, about the forged documents, the fake returns." "We'll be implicated," Mum whispered. "Only if you knew," I said softly. "But you didn't know, did you? You were just... what's the word? Oh yes, naive, trusting, blinded by your golden boy's promises." Understanding dawned on their faces. I'd just handed them their defence strategy. Now, I continued, I believe those rose bushes need attention. And tomorrow we're having another family dinner. I have such an interesting story to tell about the time Caden tried to hack our company servers. They backed out slowly, finally understanding the full scope of what I'd orchestrated. Not just revenge, but calculated destruction of everything they'd valued above me. My phone buzzed again. A news alert. Breaking. Weaver Capital CEO named in federal indictment. I smiled, remembering Mum's words from years ago. Caden understands the real world better than you ever will. Funny how the real world works sometimes. Tonight's story, I announced, watching my parents serve the appetizers with trembling hands, is about my STEM scholarship to Stanford. Mum nearly dropped the plate of bruschetta. She knew exactly where this was going. Full ride, I continued, sampling a piece. Top 2% of applicants. The dean personally called to congratulate me. Melanie, please, Mum whispered. We've been working all day in the heat. Can't we just eat quietly? Like how you told me to be quiet when I tried to share my news at Caden's Harvard acceptance party. I took a sip of wine. Dad, why don't you tell the story of what you said that day? He stared at his plate. I don't remember. Really? Let me refresh your memory. Stanford's fine for a backup school, but it's no Harvard. At least you got a free ride since we're saving the college fund for something more prestigious. The silence stretched thick across the dining room. Outside, the sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting my empire in gold. The college fund that went to Caden's MBA, I added. The one he used to learn creative accounting, apparently. We thought Harvard would open more doors, Mum defended weakly. How's that working out? I gestured to their dirt-stained clothes. Speaking of doors, tell me about the graduation dinner you skipped. The one where I was supposed to announce my Google job offer. Dad shifted uncomfortably. There was an important dinner with Caden's mentors. Double my starting salary, I cut in, plus stock options. The kind of offer most parents would celebrate. But you didn't even return my calls. We didn't understand the tech industry then, Mum said quietly. No, you understood status, prestige, Harvard MBAs and country club memberships. I nodded to Sabrina, who began serving the main course. You understood everything, except actual value. My phone buzzed. Another news alert about Caden. The walls were closing in on him fast. Perfect timing. Remember when Dorian got sick? I asked, watching their faces carefully. During our startup's second year, he worked himself into pneumonia, but we couldn't afford good healthcare yet. Mum's hand trembled as she set down her fork. We all remembered. I called you, I continued. Asked to borrow $30,000 for his treatment. You said you were stretched thin from Caden's wedding planning. We didn't realise, Dad started, that he might die. My voice could have frozen hell. That your daughter's husband was in critical condition while you were picking out $1,000 centerpieces. What do you want from us? Mum burst out. We've apologised. We're literally serving you dinner in our gardening clothes. How much more humiliation do you want? I leaned forward. Humiliation? You want to talk about humiliation? Let's talk about my courthouse wedding. The one you told everyone was a youthful mistake. The one where you said Dorian would never amount to anything. We were wrong, Dad admitted. Obviously wrong. Look at all you've built together. No. I stood up, walking to the window. You don't get to admire what we built. You don't get to claim any part of our success. You get to serve dinner and listen. That's our deal. A car pulled up to the gate, a familiar luxury sedan. I smiled, right on schedule. Speaking of deals, I turned back to them. Look who's arrived. Your golden boy himself. They rushed to the window, watching Caden argue with security through the intercom. Please, Mum begged, let him in. He's desperate. Desperate people make desperate choices, I mused, like convincing their parents to invest their retirement in a Ponzi scheme. Dad's face crumpled. We trusted him. Yes, you did. Blindly, completely, destructively. I pressed the intercom. Security, please remind Mr. Weaver that he's trespassing. If he doesn't leave immediately, call the police. You can't do this, Mom protested. He's family. Family? I laughed. That word keeps coming up. Tell me, where was family when you chose his networking events over my achievements? Where was family when you watched me struggle while funding his excesses? Through the window, we watched Caden's car speed away, gravel spraying behind him. Sit down, I ordered. Dinner isn't over. Tonight's final story is about the day I made my first million, the day I bought this house, the day I finally understood that your approval meant nothing compared to what I'd built without you. They sank back into their chairs, defeated. In the distance, police sirens wailed, probably heading for Caden's last known location. Now then, I smiled, raising my glass. Who's ready for dessert? I believe humble pie is on the menu again. The setting sun cast long shadows across their faces, painting a portrait of karma served cold, one course at a time. Your brother's ex-wife is here to see you, Sabrina announced, standing in my office doorway. She says it's urgent. I looked up from my laptop, surprised. Isabel hadn't contacted me since her divorce from Caden 2 years ago. Send her in. She entered wearing designer clothes that looked slightly worn, her perfect manicure chipped at the edges. The fall from grace had clearly begun before the public scandal. Melanie, she said, taking the seat I offered, you look successful. Amazing what hard work and ethical business practices can do, I replied. What brings you here, Isabel? She pulled out her phone, hands shaking slightly. Caden sent me this last night. I thought you should see it. The text message read, Tell Dad to take the fall. FBI doesn't have enough on me yet. He can claim he masterminded everything. His age will get him a lighter sentence. Wow, I said softly. Throwing your own father under the bus. That's low, even for him. He's spiralling, Isabel confirmed. Called me crying at 3 a.m, talking about fleeing to Mexico. I thought you should know what he's planning. I studied her carefully. Why are you really here, Isabel? Last I checked, you were firmly Team Caden during the divorce. She laughed bitterly. Team Caden? He asked me to lie to investors, forge documents. When I refused, he threatened to ruin me. Said no one would believe the trophy wife over the golden boy of Wall Street. And now? Now I want justice. She leaned forward. I have recordings, Melanie. Phone calls, meetings, everything. I started documenting when things felt wrong, but I was too scared to come forward. I pressed the intercom. Sabrina, get Dorian in here, and call Tyrone. Within minutes, my husband and our private investigator joined us. Dorian's eyes widened when he saw Isabel. Well, this is unexpected, he said, taking the seat beside me. Show them, I told Isabel. She played the recordings. Caden's voice filled the room, bragging about dummy corporations, laughing about fooling investors, planning to blame others when it all fell apart. With each recording, my parents' chances of claiming ignorance grew stronger. This is exactly what we need, Tyrone said, taking notes. Combined with the financial records we leaked, this proves premeditation. Leaked? Isabel looked at me sharply. That was you? I've been collecting evidence for years, I admitted, waiting for the right moment. God, she whispered, you're even more strategic than he is. Difference is, I use my powers for good, I smiled. Usually. My phone buzzed. A text from the security gate. Speaking of strategy, our parents are requesting an urgent meeting. Apparently, Caden's been calling them non-stop. Perfect timing, Dorian said. Should we show them what their precious son is planning? I stood up, straightening my jacket. Better idea. Let's have a full family reunion. Isabel, are you up for a confrontation? She squared her shoulders. After what you put me through? Absolutely. Tyrone, call your contact at the FBI. Tell them to be ready. Sabrina, have security let my parents in, then call Caden. Tell him Mum and Dad are ready to help him escape. You're setting a trap, Isabel realised. I'm finishing what you started, I corrected. Dorian, get the cameras ready in the dining room. Everything needs to be recorded. 20 minutes later, my parents sat nervously at the dining table while Isabel waited in the study. They jumped when Sabrina entered. He's here, she announced. I took my position at the head of the table. Showtime. Caden burst in, looking dishevelled in his wrinkled suit. Mum, Dad, we need to move fast. I have a plan. He froze when he saw me. Hello, brother, I said calmly. Please join us. We were just discussing family loyalty. What is this? He demanded, looking at our parents. Sit down, Caden, I ordered. You'll want to be sitting for what comes next. I'm not playing your games, Melanie, he spat. Mum, Dad, we need to go now. They're not going anywhere, I said. But someone else is joining us. On cue, Isabel walked in. The colour drained from Caden's face. Remember those late-night phone calls? She asked sweetly. The ones where you planned to blame your father? I recorded them all. Caden lunged for the door, but security blocked his path. Now then, I smiled, pressing the intercom. Sabrina, please tell our friends from the FBI they can come in. I believe my brother has a confession to make. The look of betrayal on Caden's face was almost worth the decade of pain he'd caused. Almost. You set me up, he whispered. No, dear brother, I corrected him. You set yourself up. I just made sure everyone could see it. The FBI agents entered as our parents watched in horror, finally understanding the full scope of their golden child's deception. Just as I thought, watching them put handcuffs on my brother tastes better than revenge. You can't do this! Caden struggled against the handcuffs. Mum, Dad, tell them. Tell them I was doing this for the family. Mom sat frozen, mascara running down her face. Dad stared at his hands, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Mrs. Weaver, Mr. Weaver, the lead FBI agent said, will need your statements about your involvement in your son's investment scheme. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Actually, I have something that might help clarify their role. I nodded to Sabrina, who brought in a thick folder. Financial records showing my parents were victims, not accomplices. Bank statements proving they invested their retirement based on fraudulent information. Melanie, what are you doing? Caden hissed. Saving them from you, I replied calmly. One last time. The FBI agent flipped through the documents. This is very thorough. It clearly shows they were misled about the nature of the investments. You can't trust her, Caden shouted. She's been plotting this for years. Plotting what? I asked innocently. To preserve evidence of your crimes? To protect our parents from your schemes? Yes, guilty as charged. Isabel stepped forward, holding up her phone. I have the recordings ready, Agent Roberts, including the ones where Caden explicitly discusses hiding information from his parents. Mum finally found her voice. You were going to blame your father, your own father. I had no choice. Caden's composure cracked. The investments went bad. People were asking questions. Dad's name was on some of the paperwork. Paperwork you forged, Isabel cut in. Just like you forged my signature on those offshore accounts. The agents began leading Caden toward the door. He thrashed against their grip, his perfectly tailored suit now wrinkled and damp with sweat. You'll regret this, Melanie, he shouted. You think you're so perfect with your tech empire and your revenge. You're nothing but a bitter little girl playing businesswoman. I walked up to him slowly, maintaining eye contact. No, Caden. I'm the woman who beat you at your own game. The difference is I did it legally. Everything I built is real. Everything you built was a lie. After they took him away, silence fell over the dining room. Mom's quiet sobs were the only sound. Why? Dad finally asked. Why did you protect us, after everything we did? Because I'm not like him, I said simply. Or you. I don't destroy family for personal gain, even when they deserve it. We don't deserve your mercy, Mom whispered. No, you don't. I sat back down. But this isn't mercy. This is strategy. You'll spend the rest of your lives knowing that the daughter you dismissed saved you from the son you worshipped. Isabel gathered her things. I should go. The FBI will need me to make a formal statement. Thank you, I told her, for being brave enough to come forward. After she left, I turned back to my parents. Your 6 months in the guest house isn't over. You'll continue working, continue attending our dinners, but now you'll do it knowing exactly what your choices have cost you. And Caden? Mum asked tremulously. Will likely serve 15 to 20 years, I replied, unless he makes a deal. But given his performance today, I doubt he'll admit guilt easily. Dad stood up shakily. We should have seen it. All those signs. You saw exactly what you wanted to see, I corrected him. Just like you saw what you wanted to see in me. A disappointment, a failure, an embarrassment. We were wrong, Mum said. So terribly wrong. Yes, you were. I pressed the intercom. Sabrina, please escort my parents back to the guest house. They have roses to prune tomorrow. As they shuffled toward the door, I called out, Oh, and one more thing. Those documents protecting you from prosecution, they're real, but they can disappear as easily as they appeared. Remember that the next time you're tempted to contact Caden. They nodded, broken and humbled, before following Sabrina out. Dorian came in after they left, wrapping his arms around me. "You okay?" I leaned into his embrace, finally allowing myself to feel the weight of what had just happened. I thought revenge would feel better than this. "It's not revenge," he said softly. "It's justice, with a side of mercy they didn't earn." "The mercy is the revenge," I replied. "They'll spend the rest of their lives knowing they owe everything to the daughter they rejected. That's a debt they can never repay." Through the window, I watched my parents cross the lawn to their temporary home, their shoulders bent under the weight of their choices. "Come on," Dorian said. "Let's go home. The real home, where we started. That little apartment where we dreamed all this up." I smiled, remembering those hungry, determined days. "You still have those paper napkins with our first business plan?" "Framed in my office," he grinned. "Right next to our courthouse wedding photo. Sometimes," I realised, "the best revenge isn't destruction. It's rising so high that those who hurt you have to look up to see you." The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the final paperwork. My parents' 6-month stay had ended yesterday, and they'd left quietly, without ceremony or goodbye. Just a simple note. "We understand now." Sabrina knocked on my door. "The construction crew is ready for the groundbreaking. Everyone's waiting in the courtyard." I gathered my things, including a worn paper napkin in a simple frame. Our original business plan, sketched out in that tiny apartment so long ago. Outside, a crowd had gathered around the cordoned-off area where the guest house used to stand. In its place would rise the Henry Tech Innovation Lab, a training centre for underprivileged students interested in tech. Dorian waited for me at the podium, grinning. "Ready to build something new?" "Always!" I squeezed his hand before turning to address the crowd. 10 years ago, I was told I didn't belong in tech," I began. "That my dreams were too big, my background too humble, my ambitions inappropriate. Today, we break ground on a centre dedicated to proving those doubts wrong," the audience applauded. In the back, I spotted Isabel, who gave me a small wave. After testifying against Caden, she'd found her voice. And a new career in corporate compliance. "Success isn't about pedigree or privilege," I continued. "It's about persistence. Every student who walks through these doors will learn that lesson. They'll learn that validation doesn't come from family names or trust funds. It comes from creating real value in the world." As I lifted the ceremonial shovel, my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Saw the announcement about the Innovation Lab. Finally understood what you meant about real value. We're sorry." I slipped the phone back into my pocket without responding. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt, and shouldn't be. After the ceremony, Dorian and I walked the grounds, stopping at the spot where the guest house had stood. "No regrets about demolishing it?" he asked. "None," I replied. "Best to build something meaningful than preserve a monument to revenge." Sabrina approached with a tablet. "The press releases are going out. And there's news about Caden. He took a plea deal this morning. Let me guess. Turned on all his co-conspirators?" She nodded. 12 years with possibility of parole. He's also required to make full restitution to his victims. "Including your parents?" Dorian added quietly. "They made their choices," I said, watching the construction crews begin their work. "Just like I made mine." Back in my office, I opened my desk drawer and pulled out an old photo, my courthouse wedding day. Dorian and I, young and determined, standing on those cold steps. I placed it next to the framed napkin. "Miss Henry," my assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The first round of scholarship applications for the Innovation Lab has arrived." "Send them in," I replied, then turned to Dorian. "Want to help me find the next tech revolutionaries?" He sat beside me, just like that night in our tiny kitchen. Always. As we read through the applications, stories of determination, of dreams bigger than circumstances, I realised something profound. My revenge hadn't just been about making my family suffer. It had been about proving that their values were hollow, that real success comes from creating, not destroying. "Look at this one," Dorian pointed to an application. "Reminds me of someone I know. Brilliant ideas, no connections. Family thinks she's wasting her time." I smiled, reading the young woman's passionate pitch. "Schedule an interview and send her a message. Your dreams are not too big. Your ambitions are not inappropriate. And yes, you absolutely belong here." The construction sounds outside grew louder, destruction and creation happening simultaneously. Perfect symmetry. "You know," Dorian said, Your parents might see these scholarship stories in the press. They might try to reach out again. They might, I agreed. But I'm not that desperate daughter anymore, waiting for their approval. I'm not even that angry woman plotting revenge. I'm just me, building something real. He kissed my forehead. And that's why I married you in that courthouse. I looked out at the construction site, where the future was literally taking shape. My parents had taught me about power through cruelty. Caden had taught me about success through deception. But I'd learned something better. True power comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. The sun set over Los Angeles, painting my empire in shades of gold. Not the false gold of my brother's schemes, but the real gold of innovation, of creation, of genuine value. They thought my courthouse wedding was too humble for their status. They never understood that humility, combined with determination, builds empires that last. And that's worth more than revenge could ever be.